According to the behavior observed from the magnetized nail in the Exploring Magnetism lab, Earth acts in a similar manner where it has two poles, a north and a south pole. The current in a wire lab helped to explain how moving charges create magnetic fields, and using the reverse right-hand rule, the magnetic field is always perpendicular to the moving charge or current. So in both cases, a magnetic dipole occurs where if we were to imagine a magnet as one giant dipole, the positive charge possesses electric field lines away from itself, ultimately towards the negative charge on the other end of the magnet. It is evident that what establishes magnetic field lines is moving charges, current flow, and spinning of electrons. However, instead of current through a wire, Earth creates its own magnetic field through the electric currents created in its liquid iron-nickel core, not far from its axis of rotation. In essence, Earth's turbulent convection currents in its core helps to symbolize the magnetic field shape. In a simpler case, yes, this is true, but research shows that Earth is most definitely not just a static, permanent magnet whatsoever, but most of its energy in terms of a large-scale field is in the shape of a dipole, the bar magnet. And so flipping these poles means changing more than I had imagined, but would like to discuss three: certain animal behavior, the northern lights, and the heading of our compasses. Believe it or not, there are actually radical pair reactions linked to the avian compass that arise in the protein class called cryptochrome, found in the eyes of migratory birds. Birds such as the European robins and zebra finches all obtain this protein, allowing these species to see magnetic fields. Specifically, the products from the radical reaction in the bird's retina affects their sensitivity of light reception in the eye. The bird's visual sensing produces brighter or darker regions as part of the bird's view, so as the bird moves its head, the pattern of darker bright spots move differently across its current view, using this pattern for orientation purposes, given the magnetic field lines. Changing the pole locations distinctly would change the magnetoreception of these animals and impact their direction of migration and habitat for themselves and their offspring. When it comes to the northern lights, the gases in the form of fluorescent light, due to the electrically charged particles, rely on it and travel towards the Earth's magnetic field, with a mixture of air creating its diverse arrangement of color. Changing the field direction in terms of the northern light orientation would allow the lights to appear near more readily in what is now the southern pole of the Earth. Given this, the impact on the primary light location would occur noticeably, but also that the heavy tourism the lights bring in the auroral zone of northern Norway and Alaska would also suffer. The strength of the northern lights would not necessarily differ exactly, but may more heavily depend on the sun's magnetic fields when changing these poles. In terms of compasses, the tool everyone relies on, such as GPS headings and smartphone applications like Uber that use north as its main heading, will act in a different manner. Such a case on a smartphone screen would not indicate the correct direction, but rather the location, since GPS systems are actually wired using satellites. In terms of handheld compasses, instead of compass needles pointing north, they would point in the direction of the new field lines, which would be the old south. So the new north would be essentially the old south. This is not to say that Earth's geographic north pole will change and affect compasses, but rather Earth's magnetic pole would affect the compass arrow's orientation. What everyone's northern needle on their compasses point to is towards where the Earth's magnetic field lines go vertically down, which happens to be at the southern magnetic pole. We call it north because this is the direction that the field lines are traveling, since the negative side of the dipole accepts the field lines, in this case above the equator or on top of the Earth. The magnetic north pole itself is below the equator, releasing the field lines outward towards the negative charge along the field lines. It seems that although the magnetic northern pole's field lines are traveling about 40 miles every year from the north of Canada to the northwest, magnetic pole reversal change ranges from tens of thousands of years to almost millions of years. But the last similar event did occur about 780,000 years ago, but there is still not a clear determination for when the reversal will actually take place, if it ever does during our lifetime. As for humans, according to NASA, there shouldn't be many dramatic effects, but it is very hard to tell since Earth's polarity is not constant. In fact, Earth's magnetic dipole is also relatively weak, about 20 to 30 microteslas, much weaker than a small bar magnet. Regardless, the research in class labs help to indicate that Earth is a constantly evolving magnetic dipole, which hopefully shouldn't affect Earth's life by much if a magnetic pole reversal does take place. It is not as simple as turning a bar magnet upside down and observing the change in field lines, but rather a matter of Earth's strength of magnetic field lines and ultimately the adaptability for life on Earth. The only drastic change that may certainly take place will be an increase in the global production of new compasses.